Right before I flew out and I was going to go to Winter Springs in Florida, I get in the group chat, my sister-in-law had dropped a video, and it was a video of somebody doing a carjacking in Winter Springs, right? And it was like, carjacking in Winter Springs, like, okay. And that story has evolved and turned into something crazy. So it started off as a simple carjacking. This is from the car that's behind, 2 cars behind. All right, here we go. All right? Supposedly, buddy jumped out of this green car, walked up to this white car, and put the thing to it. He opened the back seat, got in behind her. Not your typical carjacking. Not your typical, whip her out the whip or throw her on the other side of the car on the passenger side and take the driver's seat. Nah. Buddy got in the back seat behind her. Now, when I first saw it, I didn't realize that this car was with the guy. So my thought was, whoever this is should probably ram that truck into traffic if it's possible. It would have caused some shit, instead of him just driving off with old girl. Because again, let me see, through this whole thing, they're stuck at this light, there's people turning. That would have definitely been an accident. So if this was a civilian car that could have gone a little reverse and put him into the intersection, that might have created some shit, Right? So there you have it. They drove off with her, right? That was all I had seen at the time. And then my brother, so we got into the smoke session, started telling me what was happening with the rest of the story.
Also breaking right now, this disturbing video shows a woman being carjacked in Seminole County. Just minutes ago, we received the 911 call from the person who initially called for help. Take a listen.
No, the guy had a machine gun and got the guy to open the door and was pointing the gun at him. And then he got in the back seat of the car. And then the car that was chasing them did a U-turn and they went back towards 1792.
The guy had a machine gun and got the guy to open the door, was pointing the gun at him. Then he got in the back seat of the car that was chasing them. Huh? Did a U-turn and they went backwards to 1792. And again, why nobody didn't follow them? You see all that, I don't know, I guess people don't want to get involved. It is what it is.
Deputies now believe that victim was killed after they found a body inside of a burned out SUV. Fox.
So that was more my brother said. I was like, wait a minute. He was like, yeah, I think that person got unalived. And I was like, for real? He was like, yeah. And I was like, there's more to that story. Something's going down.
35's Matt Trezza is live in Sanford, where the sheriff just spoke about this case. Matt, what is the latest?
Yeah, well, in this case, Seminole County deputies are praising the Good Samaritans who shot that video, the people who saw something and said something and captured on video the moment that deputies say the bad guy got into the victim's car. The video is dramatic. Deputies say a man with a weapon gets out of the green car and walks to the white SUV in front of it. He aims what appears to be a gun at Katherine Aguasvivas' window, then reaches inside and gets into the back seat. The light turns green and both vehicles make a U-turn. Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lima says it was the start of a nearly 2-hour journey that ended with deputies finding the smoldering remains of an SUV and a body inside.
There was so much damage to the vehicle, you could not positively identify the vehicle, but they also discovered that one person was deceased and found in that vehicle.
Lima says they believe the body is that of Aguasvivas, but they're waiting for DNA and dental evidence to confirm it. He says her odyssey started in South Florida and she drove north to Seminole County. The video was shot at the intersection of East Lake Drive and Tuscaloosa Road.
About a half a mile or so prior to that intersection, she started to notice that the green Acura was behind her, and the Acura was actually ramming into her back bumper at that time.
Lima says after the masked man got into Aguasvivas SUV, they drove south on 417 to Boggy Creek Road in Osceola County, not far from a construction site.
So he chased her for some distance, tapping the car like, I don't know, how to, it's a woman. How do you react to that? It was targeted. They following her. They didn't want that car, evidently.
Not so far away that eyewitnesses could not report hearing gunshots.
After that, deputies found the burned-out SUV with 10mm shell casings inside. We talked with former Orlando Police Chief Orlando Rolone about this case.
Why gunshots? Like, y'all jack some chick, y'all got her whip, you got her in the whip, you take off. You sending a message? You gonna shoot up the whip and set it on fire? Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't get it. This is looking funny, man. So this is where we are as far as events. They tapping her, following her, tapping her. They end up getting out the car. They put the hammer to her, and they open the back seat and get behind her. She don't run up. She don't drive off. Again, I don't expect her to have any tactical thinking. I don't know, man, but didn't look good.
He says investigators are putting the pieces together.
Hopefully, by now, cell phone data, vehicle data, because again, everything is connected these days, especially if the cars are newer. Hopefully, it has led them to something that will allow and will shed some light as to what exactly happened in this case.
Seminole County deputies are at this point still searching for the suspects and that green Acura, and they're asking for your help. Anybody who has any information about its whereabouts or the suspect are urged to give the Seminole County Sheriff's Office or Crime Line a call.
All right, but this gets crazier than this. Mind you, the young lady, last name Aguasvivas, which means living waters, she is found unalived in a burning car with hammer shells all around it. Who understands that?
Thank you so much for coming out for an update on the murder investigation involving Katherine Aguasvivas that happened on April 11th, which has been widely
3 days
covered.
later.
Two large updates that I'll provide today, and at the end, I'll open myself for any questions. As I've said in the early briefings of this, is an ongoing investigation, and I think that timely delivery, as much information as we can, is incredibly important. The first is we're no longer looking for a green 2002 Acura. We've located that vehicle. The circumstances leading up to that are one that I'll describe out now, that the car was legitimately owned by a family in Winter Springs. They sold that to a legitimate car dealership back in December. Sold the car or traded the car in. As car dealerships typically do, they traded off to an auto auction. It went to an auto auction and then ultimately was purchased by a buy here, pay here owner operator who sold it from their lot in Seminole County. They sold it. It was still titled to the original owners in Winter Springs. It had not had enough time to work out the transfer of title.
That whip went through a bunch of hands quick.
To work out the transfer of title. And the people who purchased the car never came back to finish the additional paperwork. They still owed the person money. So the car has been out on the streets probably since February, unregistered, undocumented with a license plate. Any license plate that it had on at any given time was just temporarily put on, largely from a stolen tag. What's unique about a 2002 green Acura in the state of Florida, there were only 3 in the state of Florida. 2 had been salvaged and only 1 existed in the state.
2 of those green Acuras in a junkyard and 1 in the whole state. So you most literally looking for like a Dalmatian needle in a haystack and shit.
When we look at records, the first time authorities came in contact with this was when it was towed on March 19th from an Orlando apartment complex. The car was backed in, parked illegally, probably had no tag on it at the time, and it was towed from an Orange County apartment complex on March 19th. The tow truck driver of that particular tow of this vehicle was a murder victim in Orange County that happened one day before our kidnapping murder. April 10th, a tow truck driver was murdered in Orange County. At that scene, a green vehicle matching the description of this green vehicle was located, and there was more than 100 rounds fired at that location. One of the rounds found at the scene were 10mm rounds.
Wait,
which is
what?
Again,
where? At the tow joint?
And there was more than 100
Hoso said this just gets crazier and crazier. Hold
rounds
on,
fired. April 10th, which is again an incredibly unique and uncommon round for us to see out on the streets. As you can imagine, the Orange County Sheriff's Office, this is their case. They've been working this thing aggressively, and they have been partnering with our organization on the murder investigation that we're looking into with Katherine to connect the dots between the two locations.
Bruh, so the car got towed from an apartment complex on the 19th. The tow truck driver gets smoked the day before old girl gets carjacked. 10mm shells all over the place there. 10mm shells all over the place by this burning car that old girl was supposedly in.
We were able to locate this vehicle just recently that we're looking into with Katherine to connect the dots between the two locations. We were able to locate this vehicle just recently on Saturday, April 13th, one day after we had the news conference announcing that we were investigating a murder. It once again was parked and abandoned in an Orange County apartment complex and was towed through a contractual tow service. When a tow service tows a vehicle that is illegally parked in an apartment complex, they have a responsibility to contact either the tag or through VIN to report into a system. That is how the VIN number was identified. Again, the VIN number was unique because there was only one 2002 green Acura left in the state of Florida. When the VIN number ran, we immediately knew it was our car. That vehicle then was collected, transferred to the Orange County Sheriff's Office to be evaluated for evidence with the Orange County team.
So it got towed again after all of that. I mean, they had to have bleached the inside of that car. If they left one print on that car, then this whole crazy movie shit that's going on here was nothing.
And the Seminole County team. So no longer looking for the car.
All right, got it.
We still are looking for information about people who were occupants in the car, whether at the Orange County case or our case. That part of the process is ongoing. But again, we want to thank everyone's help who have called in, reached out to Crime Line, done whatever, and especially the media for getting that information out. Second part that I want to brief up on is an Orange County deputy was arrested by the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. Francisco Estrella was arrested last night by our agency. Now, when this initial report of the kidnapping was made, our detectives saw, as the public saw, the phone number on the rear window of that vehicle. When we called that phone number in the early stages of the investigation, the decedent's husband picked up the phone, came back to him. We identified ourselves. We had one of our detectives say who we were, what we were looking at, and that's how we disclosed that we were working a kidnapping case. Both the decedent's wife, Miguel, and her brother, Louis, who live in Homestead, provided whatever information they could on the phone.
The decedent's husband. He fucked that up. He meant the decedent's husband.
And then agreed to travel up here to Seminole County. As they were traveling up here to Seminole County, Miguel and Louis reached out to a mutual friend, a childhood friend as it's described, who happens to be the Orange County deputy's wife. The wife of the Orange County deputy reached out and said, I've been contacted by this person who's identified by name as a detective with the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. Can you find out whatever information you can about this particular person? The deputy then picks up the phone, calls our detective, and gives a false name and identifies himself as a detective with the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
What?
Wanting to get information about this case. Later in that conversation, he actually says he's a deputy sheriff, but for the entire time, he's giving a fake name as he's communicating with our folks. And our detectives, obviously...
Yo! Hold on. I think I got a breakdown here, all right? Yo, what the is happening in Winter Springs? Okay, so... All right, let's start from the beginning. Car gets towed in March. Tow truck driver gets aired out. I guess they rescue the car from him. The day after he gets smoked, they're ramming this lady up and down the street. She don't know what to do. They up hammer on her. They open the back door. They get behind her. They take off. They find that car burnt, her in it, unalived. And there's also 10mm shells in that area. Police are investigating. They find the car, the green Acura. They call the phone number on the back of the original car that got jacked because it was for sale, it had a phone number. They get in contact with the deceased woman's husband, and he says, and he cooperates, and her brother cooperates. The sheriff tells them, come on down so we could talk. They said, cool. Then they reached out to a woman that they know who has a husband that's a deputy, and the husband puts supposedly they asked him to, they say, hey man, I got this investigator looking for me. Can you go look in and see what they talking about with this situation here, what they know? That's the way he frames it, right? So the deputy goes and he lies and says he's a deputy sheriff and he's somebody else. So he uses somebody else's credentials to get into the system and get information, and they done locked his dumb ass up. All right? I think that's where we're at right now.
Thought that communication was strange, but for the entire time, he's later in that conversation, he actually says he's a deputy sheriff, but for the entire time, he's giving a fake name as he's communicating with our folks, and our detectives obviously thought that communication was strange, especially the timeliness of it, just hours after we have identified that we're working a homicide case here. In addition to...
But think about this, bro. Your wife just got unalived. What you worried about talking to detectives for? Why you want to know what's going on over there? That ain't usually what a person that ain't up to no good does when it's brought to your attention that, hey, man, we need to talk to you because someone bad with your wife.
In addition to that, we knew that the Orange County deputy and wife accessed illegally the Florida David system and pulled up the unique characteristics, home address, photographs, signatures of our primary detective working the case, and all of the communication between the Orange County deputy and our detective working the case was then recorded, all communicated back to the decedent's husband, who was on his way here.
So they live in Homestead, Miami area. What's she doing up there by herself?
When he was here, I had mentioned in the briefing on Friday that he has been cooperative. He has provided, to the extent that he feels comfortable with, what was going on Friday. I think when I laid out those circumstances, I said that her vehicle was being rammed by the vehicle behind her. They didn't call 911. He didn't call 911. And then her phone looked like it was immediately turned off after that. So he's on his way up here. He is contacting.
Miss me with that phone turned off after that shit, because if you watch that Navy SEAL, Ryan, whatever his face is, I can't remember his name right now, he had that hacker on. Them people said you get to a certain level, you don't need with this technology, you don't even need to have your phone on or a battery in it or a phone smashed. So I don't know what happened.
Whoever he can, and he cooperates to the extent that he feels comfortable with. part of that cooperation is he gives us his phone. We ask for his phone, he gives us his phone, we forensically examine that phone, and that's how we found the communication between the Orange County deputy and his wife and him. It came through the examination of that phone. That is why he has now been charged with 5 felonies here in Seminole County.
Damn.
2 of those felonies deal with recording and releasing the audio file of the detective's conversation with him. 2 of those charges relate to unlawfully accessing a police database, and particularly the David system that released unique characteristics of the home address, the photograph and signatures of the lead investigator in this case.
So they had a drop on the lead investigator is basically what we're saying here. They had the drop on the lead investigator. What?
And then the last charge is the use of a 2-way communication device in the commission of these felonies. He has just gone through first appearance at 2 o'clock here in Seminole County today. I don't know any of the details about what happened during that first appearance hearing. We were working with our detectives on the inside here. So, a lot of updates. We still have incredibly dangerous people that are out there on the streets. We still want to encourage our public to again, not approach these individuals. They should be perceived as armed and dangerous. Anybody who has any information about the occupants of this incredibly rare vehicle here in the state of Florida should contact authorities, either the Orange County Sheriff's Office or the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, or if you feel more comfortable, Crime Line, where you could be eligible for a reward and remain anonymous as we go. Again, with that, I'll open for any questions about the additional information that we're briefing on today. So it's either connected or it's a heck of a coincidence, right? I think that what we need to do is to make sure that physical evidence and evaluation and reports can positively make that connection. But what we do know now is this vehicle, our suspect's vehicle, by unique VIN number, was towed back on March 19th from the murder victim. At the scene, there are more than 100 rounds, but a good percentage of those rounds on the ground are 10 millimeter, the gun used in the murder of our victim that we found burnt up in the vehicle in Osceola County. So I absolutely think they're connected.
And I want to know more about this tow truck situation, because he's saying that he towed the vehicle. What, when he was towing the vehicle, this turned into a shootout? Like, what are we talking about here?
We'll have to have physical evidence that absolutely proves that.
When that shooting happened on Wednesday, and again, there's a lot of moving parts here, so I want to make sure for clarity. That car wasn't on the scene in Taft last Wednesday. That car was towed 2 or 3 weeks before then, right?
And then released. So what we have, and I don't want to get too far into the Orange County investigation, although they are working hand in glove with our detectives here, but a green vehicle was seen at that location. It seems like it was towed back in March, ultimately released on the scene of this particular crime. So we think the green vehicle was there at the murder scene.
Okay.
In the Orange County murders?
Yes.
Secondly, so this conversation with this deputy to your detectives.
It still doesn't say, was it released to these guys and they got into a shootout? Did they go in there to steal the whip? They're not giving the date. Well, they're saying it was the day before. That the tow truck driver got hit the day before, old girl. And where was that at?
Recording without that detective's permission, sharing with the husband. Clearly, you guys have filed criminal charges in that case. Has this impeded your investigation, in your opinion?
So you know, we're talking about the deputy's involvement. It has no negative involvement in our investigation, but absolutely creates a dangerous environment for our deputies and our staff. You know, we know that this deputy relayed this information to the decedent's husband, Miguel, but at this point in time, we don't know who else he may have shared that information with. And I think that any person who's ever turned on the TV, seen the things that are incredibly challenging out there and find out the unique, bizarre characteristic of these cases, I don't know that any of us will want our names and our home addresses released, especially if we had a responsibility to enforce and hold the violators of this accountable. So I think we're incredibly concerned, but the involvement of the Orange County deputy does not slow us down at all and does not have negative effect on the case that we're working.
Do you know what he was trying to do? What was that deputy trying to gain from going and looking that up?
Well, that's going to be a great part of what I hope the ongoing investigation is, both here and I know independently Orange County would conduct their own administrative investigation. But, we know that, or we believe that they were childhood friends. Of course, there was a relationship with there. But what they had to gain is something that I'm incredibly interested in. Why would somebody do this? Why would they put their own job and life on the line to communicate with one of our detectives, to give an alias in the process? Now, he's been an Orange County deputy for 1 year, but to give an alias in the process, never knowing that Miguel, the decedent's husband, is going to release his phone. If he didn't release the phone, I don't know we would ever know this. So this is it's incredibly frightening.
So the decedent husband's phone is what blew it up, not the detective that the other cop called. If the decedent's husband's phone blew him up, that means he blew up his own information connect. This is strange.
And but I suspect we'll find a lot more about this as the investigation goes on. This is just last night we arrested him.
Forgive me if you said this and I missed it trying to follow this all. How much detail did your investigators give this deputy, or non-details?
Yeah. So as soon as our detectives received this call from the Orange County detective, as he called himself, they were immediately on alert and very suspicious of the communication, and really gave him nothing, absolutely nothing. But as soon as that happened and they hung up the phone, trust me, that was a topic of conversation in the room. What was that about? This stands out and is incredibly suspicious. When they later contacted the Orange County Sheriff's Office, they're like, we don't have a deputy with that last name nor a detective, but we have a phone number that is connected with somebody. Actually, interestingly enough, he gave the same first name, but just gave a different last name.
Given the extreme details of both of these situations that we're now potentially talking about, have Orange County detectives uncovered any possibility that this is either gang or cartel connected?
Well, I think that any person who looks at these circumstances would automatically go there. And our investigation is also exploring any possibilities of that. But at this point in time, I'm not ready to turn that rock over and disclose whether or not we're going to do that. Trust me, when and if that becomes a topic here, you'll see me standing right here and telling as much information as you can. But when you look at this thing, I mean, this is right out of a television show, right? You see this thing. There's a lot of bizarre circumstances here, and now to have this vehicle connected, unique characteristics, the rareness of the vehicle. So, not yet.
The arrest paperwork for the Orange County deputy, the word cousin came up, that he was in some way a cousin of the woman who was carjacked and then later found in Osceola County. You believe that's her. You're saying a family friend. Was he throwing around the word cousin to try to gain credibility, or was there actually a relationship?
Dave, I don't know if there's an actual relationship. What I'm finding with this particular case, there's a lot of referring to friends as family. I gave a news conference on Friday, and I said we have not been able to locate any family members in the area. We now have since located, we believe, two, one in Volusia County and one in Osceola County. Neither one of them were expecting a visit from her, and where she was at was nowhere near where they're at. So I don't know if they're biologically related, if they're related through marriage, or they're just...
They're on that Latino shit. That's my prima, my tia, my primo hermano.
Close friends that call themselves cousins. We're not at that point yet where we can identify that. We do believe that they grew up together, possibly in the Dominican Republic, before coming over here. So that's largely the decedent's husband and the deputy's wife.
Have you yet figured out why, in fact, she was here?
Well, we have no idea why she's here. We know that she was here for less than an hour. We have no evidence of her ever being in Seminole County ever before. We believe that she was absolutely targeted and followed to a certain extent, to a certain point. And I think that one of the most important things that for us to get out on Friday was this was not a random act of violence that occurred, that she absolutely was targeted. Why she was targeted, I think, is something that our detectives are working aggressively to be able to answer that.
Broad daylight, ski masked up. She got a giant white truck with giant white phone number on the back of it. Wildin'.
Question. Of course, when you're in this business, you have speculations, you have hunches, you have feelings, but you never let those arrive at the lectern before you can put some evidence behind it. So again, they're going to turn every rock over to find out.
The husband, he mentioned something about receiving any threats.
So I've described the husband as cooperative. Quite frankly, I think he knows a lot more than what he shared.
Facts.
Right? You don't have your wife communicate with you that you're getting rammed by a car and go 2 hours without calling anybody. So he has cooperated.
So she's telling him she's getting rammed and he don't call nobody? I don't know, buddy.
He has provided information. I think the initial story was that she was up here to visit family members. I don't know that we believe that.
Debunked.
He did give his cell phone, which I'm incredibly grateful, because we would not have known about the Orange County death.
He probably was in a panic and didn't know no better than to just give up his cell phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm caught. Because your wife is telling you she's getting rammed. And you didn't call authorities? That's because you didn't want authorities involved. Same way you didn't want them involved when they called your phone number on the back of that window and you called your prima hermana to have your primo hermano get in there and, pull some illegalities to get you some information. Everybody's going to jail. And it sounds like there's some money on somebody's head.
Deputy, at least not yet, if he did not do that. But I think that there's a lot more blanks that he could help fill in about the circumstances involving this particular crime and now potentially other crimes.
Is he a person of interest in what happened?
He is not. He is still the husband of our decedent and working with our detectives. He is not a person of...
Maybe it was over with for the wife. As far as he was tired of being married.
Interest.
You said the 10 millimeter that was found, that's not really common around here.
Yeah.
What does that say, or is that worrisome for you guys that like a weapon or the casing was found that's really not common?
The caliber of the weapon is not worrisome, right? The fact that there's 100 rounds, regardless of what rounds they are, at a murder scene, I think is incredibly alarming to any person who ever looks at it. A 10 millimeter is just, a round that is more rare than the 9 millimeters or the 45 calibers that we see out there. The only significance of that is it makes a better connection between the two crimes. That because of the rareness of the weapon and the round, that it's likely
cars
that
are involved
our bad guys are the same bad guys that committed this crime. And you got to remember that this vehicle for 2 months, February into April, was probably being tossed around. Now, I know people are going to say, well, just find out who picked up the car and all that, but, they send people who are innocent parties, and they say, hey, I need you to go down there and pick up this vehicle.
Same thing with the Triple Extentacion unaliving. They had got somebody to rent them a whip.
Going to give you $500, $1,000, pick it up. So it's not as simple as just look for the guy who did that. But, again, our detectives are working on that. Who purchased it, who made the deal, who went to the buy here, pay here store. But these are more sophisticated criminal operations, and this one appears to be pretty significant. But yeah, I'm going to go first. I'm going to go. But I think that when you look at between Friday and now, there's a lot of different pieces to the puzzles that are coming together.
A bunch of pieces to a puzzle that nobody knew existed.
There you go.
Is the husband facing any charge for the connection with the deputy?
No, the husband is not a person of interest and not a suspect, and not
I think we think he a suspect, y'all.
likely to be charged in this case at this point. But I may come up here tomorrow with a whole new information based upon somebody who's watching this video, somebody who has some additional information, or connecting some case evidence to other cases that may be out there. Again, but to recap, we have the car's in evidence, the car is being processed. Actually, I mean, it's good that we have the car, right? You potentially can get some evidence from it, but we'll see where that goes. Dave?
This is such a confusing thing. I just want to make sure that this is kind of for my clarity. You're saying this deputy sheriff in Orange County contacted your detective, recorded that conversation illegally, and then passed it on to the husband to kind of keep you up to date on what your investigation is doing.
Yeah, so our detective calls the phone number, the husband of the decedent answers the phone, and then reaches out to a family friend close to law enforcement, the wife of the deputy. And then literally sitting in their home, they call our deputy, they record that communication to our deputy, probably doing it on speakerphone or something like that, so all the communication can be heard. Then the deputy accesses his unique police system, pulls up as much information about our detective that they just recorded on the phone, takes photographs of that, and sends it to the husband before he ever arrives here for the interview.
Okay.
So he's on his way up here with her brother, and at the time that they're driving here, they're getting fed all this information from the Orange County deputy. Here's where she lives. Here's the detective's name. Here's a recording of our conversation.
He's bogus because he just outed the detective as a she.
So he's feeding all that information back. Why? We're going to find out. But any other questions?
I don't want to go into specifics here, but is it safe to assume your office is taking measures to protect your detective right now?
Yeah, that's a great point. So, I mean, our detective is protected. The detective is pretty tough by themselves, but we have additional units and sections. The last place that anybody would want to go is around this detective right now. I can promise you that.
You mean her, because you just outed her, because you said where she lives. You fucked up.
Why is all that information there to begin with? Is the information on every detective in that system?
And Velez said, were they going to hit the detective too? They had the information to do so. Buddy's driving there like, this is fucking weird. Because it doesn't it sound criminal in itself to these police that this dude is telling somebody else to find out about this detective? They're not saying that he's a person of interest, and they're not paying him no mind. You know why? Because he's on their way up there, and they don't want to spook him. They want him to get there before they put the light on him and be like, all right, what's really going on? So why did you call your cousin to have her husband call this detective and say he's a sheriff and him record the conversation and then get all the information he can on this detective? Why did you do that? Why did you do that? It's a movie shit indeed.
Well, every citizen. It's actually your driver's license system. You know, we've had some reports of misuse of what's called the DAVID system, the driver's license information system. And this is a prime example of misusing it, not just from an average citizen, but for a law enforcement official working this particular case. So,
is the police in Homestead involved in the investigation and any search warrant over there?
We're not doing any search warrants. Again, the husband is not a suspect, but the authorities down there in South Florida have been helpful and have been partners with us as we move throughout this case. Again, we're not working any criminal case down there, but if we do, I promise you, you're going to be the second to know behind our team. So,
any message for anybody that was potentially connected? I mean, they went after the tow truck driver potentially weeks after he drove this car. Are you worried that there might be others out there that need to get in touch with you because they could be in harm's way right now?
Yeah, I think that the question is, you know, could there be others that are in harm's way? I hope that somebody that's listening and seeing this that feels like that they may be in harm's way to contact us and tell us.
Everybody's in harm's way, man. This is a crazy scenario going down.
Everything that they possibly know and seek a safe haven of protection with coming forward and disclosing as much information as they possibly can. But again, we're going to backtrack and connect some of the cases that are open and probably a lot of different jurisdictions and be mindful of kind of the aftermath of how this thing evolves. So that's today's update. I appreciate it, and talk to you guys soon.
And deputies say they found the green car seen in that video where Katherine Aguasvivas was carjacked last week near Winter Springs before it's believed she was murdered. Now, our Ezzy Castro breaks down the latest details in this crazy story.
Seminole County Sheriff
Hold on,
Dennis
man. That
Lima
fool had on black
released
Air Force
new
Ones.
details
We got to stop stereotyping
about
like this. Reinforcing
Now, our Ezzy's
stereotypes, man. Them look
carjacked
like
last
black Air
week near
Force
Winter
Ones,
Springs
man.
before it's believed she was murdered. Now, our Ezzy Castro breaks down the latest details in this crazy story.
Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lima released new details about this investigation, which now involves 3 counties, Orange, Seminole, and Osceola. It also involves the arrest of an Orange County deputy, but the biggest concern are the suspects who still remain on the run. The deadly carjacking case of Katherine Aguasvivas taking a bizarre turn. Seminole County Sheriff Dennis Lima announcing yesterday the suspect car they were looking for, a green Acura, was located at an Orange County apartment complex on Saturday, though there were no signs of the suspects. He then explained that the same
Did you see that license plate flopping in the wind?
Was located at
It's
an
just a
Orange
piece of
County
paper.
apartment complex on Saturday, though there were no signs of the suspects. He then explained that the same car is tied to another shooting from last week in Taft that left a tow truck driver dead.
Bro, look at all of those
Another shooting from last week
shell
in Taft
locations.
that left a
Damn, look at this. That's a war zone.
tow truck driver dead.
April 10th, a tow truck driver was murdered in Orange County. At that scene, a green vehicle matching the description of this green vehicle was located, and there was more than 100 rounds fired at that location.
Lima then revealed an Orange County deputy, Francisco Estrella, is now facing serious charges after he allegedly released classified information to Aguasvivas' husband.
As they were traveling up here to Seminole County, Miguel and Lewis reached out to a mutual friend, a childhood friend as it's described, who happens to be the Orange County deputy's wife.
The sheriff said Estrella contacted a Seminole County detective on the homicide case, used a false name, claiming to be a detective with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and illegally recorded the conversation. Francisco Estrella did bond out of jail, but Orange County Sheriff John Mina released a statement about his arrest and said, quote, "It is completely unacceptable for any law enforcement officer to misuse the power and authority of their jobs." In Seminole County, Ezzy Castro, Gonna Results, News 6.
And with the case being as complicated as it is, we have posted an updated timeline on our website. Just look right on the homepage of clickorlando.com and our mobile news app. We'll be sure to bring you the latest updates as they come in.
Wildin'. Stranger than fiction. Judge grants bond for deputy arrested in connection to carjacking investigation. This is 4 hours ago.
I'm going to start with breaking news. The deputy arrested in connection to a carjacking investigation could walk out of jail tonight. Thanks for joining us. I'm Matt Austin.
And I'm Lisa Bell. This all goes back to that broad daylight carjacking we told you about last week. This video shows 31-year-old Katherine Aguasvivas being held at gunpoint at an intersection. The gunman got in her car and it was later found burnt with her body inside. On Sunday, Deputy Francisco Estrella was arrested for allegedly using a fake name to call detectives and get information about this case. And today, he asked a judge for bond. And apparently, he got it. News 6's Catherine Silver is live outside the Seminole County Jail tonight with more on these breaking details. Catherine?
I want to know how long it was between him getting in that car, them driving off. You know that the person that shot that tape, and amongst others, I'm sure, dialed 911 and called. What does it take to get these dudes off their ass? How long was it from the time she got carjacked to the time they find this car burnt up that y'all couldn't get? I see what Florida looks like. First of all, I didn't see many police when I did see them, and when I did see them, they was piled up in one place with all their lights on. You know what I'm saying? But at no point could you have gotten, some girl just got kidnapped at gunpoint, and they ain't got nobody out there trying to find that truck. These guys drove around how long before it was over with? Like, I want a timeline for real, for real. I'm going to go to that website, too, because I want a timeline. What's up, Catherine?
We were the first to know as soon as the judge signed that order this afternoon. And since then, we have been waiting for Francisco Estrella to post bond and then walk out of the jail here. There are conditions to his release. He'll need to be fitted with a GPS monitor. I spoke with his attorney on the phone, and he told me he should be going home tonight. Since Sunday, Francisco Estrella has been behind bars at the Seminole County Jail, but now he'll be able to post bond and get out. This is the order signed by
let's see this
since
goofy.
Sunday from home tonight.
Lo cagaste, güey.
Since Sunday, Francisco Estrella has been behind bars at the Seminole County Jail, but now he'll be able to post bond and get out. This is the order signed by a judge Thursday afternoon, granting a total bond of $15,000.
Is the state's position that the defendant poses a danger to the community?
At a first appearance
Oh,
Monday,
look. Look at the cops that y'all be hiring, man. Look at them being obnoxious with the judge like a thug. What? Come on, man. You full of yourself, Papa.
Granting a total bond of $15,000.
Is the state's position that the defendant poses a danger to the community?
At a first appearance hearing Monday, prosecutors initially argued Estrella should stay in jail for these reasons.
It's not just what he's charged with, but it's also his abuse of power and his access to information.
Look, see? If he's willing to act like that, what you think when he got a badge on, how he gonna act with me, huh? You ain't hiring nothing but another thug. That's what they do. Smoking Gun says, I think 3. The husband sent her to make a drop, and it went left. She tried to drive off, and they followed. Quite possible. Yeah, some work gone bad. Something.
To further obstruct the investigation.
Detectives say after this video of an armed carjacking and kidnapping came out in Winter Springs, Estrella got a call from his wife, a childhood friend of Katherine Aguasvivas' husband. She's the woman investigators say.
He didn't call that cop to go find his wife. He called that cop to find out about the detective.
He was driving this white Dodge Durango.
The deputy then picks up the phone, calls our detective, and gives a false name and identifies himself as a detective with the Orange County Sheriff's Office, wanting to get information about this case.
The sheriff says that call was recorded and shared along with information Estrella is accused of accessing illegally through a law enforcement database.
Unique characteristics, home address, photographs, signatures of our primary detective working the case. We know that this deputy relayed this information to the decedent's husband, Miguel, but at this point in time, we don't know who else he may have shared that information with.
Estrella is facing 5 felony counts. When I spoke with his lawyer today, I asked him about what happened. He told me his client told the truth about what he did as soon as he was confronted by investigators that Katherine Aguasvivas' husband called in a panic and he was just trying to help. He says he has no other involvement with this case. In Seminole County, I'm Katherine Silver, getting Results News.
Somebody's lying. We'll keep an eye on this story. If anybody runs into any new information on this, make sure you let me know about it in the comments or drop it in the Discord or hit one of my social media's DMs with it.